Hey, my legion, how y'all doing today? This video is dedicated to both my friends Christopher Sposa and also Howie Cat. I'm gonna do a review of a movie Christopher Sposa sent me, Making the Grade, and also Howie Cat told me about that this film is not yet rated, which I saw a while back. I never reviewed, but I watched it again because it was that interesting. And I wanted to review it this time. I'll start with Making the Grade. Making the Grade was a surprise comedy from Cannon, Golden Globus, and I was a fan of Cannon films back then. And this had Judd Nelson in it, one of his earlier roles, and it was all right. Basically, it was about like this guy, the slacker. It was not Judd Nelson. That was a son of rich parents, and he was like he never bothered to finish prep school, and he was like failing and stuff like that. And he was just lying around, not doing anything, destroying stuff, just having a good life. But he was a jerk, and he would like break stuff, and he didn't care about anything. And then they said his parents, they who weren't there, like one of his servants, one of his butlers said that parents said that if you don't graduate, we're going to send you to Hoover Academy. And if you don't graduate from prep school, if you don't go to prep school this year and graduate, you're cut off, no more money or anything like that. Like, oh man, I can't, I don't know what I'm going to do. That's what he was saying. He was talking to his best friend playing golf. He was getting mad whenever he couldn't hit the golf ball and throwing golf clubs and stuff like that. And there was another guy that was pretty much living out of his car, Judd Nelson. Judd Nelson character, whose friend was like a hot dog vendor. And he was trying to make money. He was always making bets, and there was this bookie and his goons that were after him. And that was played by, and the villain bookie was billed as Andrew Clay. And his character was Dice Man. So it was Andrew Dice Clay, Before, I mean, his first movie was Wacko. This one is his first movie. And, he said, if you don't get this money to me, I'm going to kick your butt, and all this other stuff. And then they said, like, through a bunch of circumstances, they said he got up with that guy who wanted to, he didn't want to go to the prep school. And he said, well, if I pay you so much money, I'll pay if you graduate. I'll pay all expenses and stuff like that. I want you to take my place. And he said, okay. And that's the base for Making the Grade. And then whenever he goes to prep school, they talk about him being a prepping. Oh, that's really boring. Not really that funny. It's an R-rated comedy, though. They had the F word a couple times, and they had a little bit of nudity. I think they were trying to make like a Animal House type movie, but they played it really straight, and it just didn't work. Whenever they had a little bit of raunchiness in it, it was really funny, but it was like maybe like 30 seconds of really raunchy humor. And, I mean, most of it just played pretty straight. And, I mean, it just really uptight. It had no real focus. And like I said, when he went to prep school, it was really boring, and he completely forgot about the main plot of the movie, which was interesting. And then, like, Dice appears, like, towards the last half hour or so, and it gets better. But I mean, it was like an hour and 45 minutes. It seemed like it was like 5 hours. I wasn't a fan of the movie, but I mean, the best things in it were Gordon Jump was in. He was very good. The guy who played the coach, and of course, Dice was the best. John Nelson was pretty much like Vapor in the movie. He didn't really cast a real impression on me. And this was part of the, like they call the Brat Pack after the success of like the John Hughes movies. But I think this was before that. I think. And then I know Judd Nelson made headlines by playing a killer in Relentless, which I saw in the theater in Germany, which I liked that. And the one other Judd Nelson comedy I really liked, I mean, except from, I mean, it's Breakfast Club and 16, those were great movies. I mean, the one Judd Nelson movie no one ever talks about was the one he did with Bob Clark, From the Hip. Now, the From the Hip, I really liked that one. I didn't really care for this one. The best things in it were Gordon Jump and Dice, and the guy who played Coach. I can't remember his name, but I mean, it didn't really exist in any real universe. It looked like it was really weird, a weird film. And just like, the love interest didn't work. I mean, it just was a very inept movie. I think that's why I remember hearing about it, because I usually went to see a lot of the teenage movies or rented them. I know I had no interest in seeing this one. I saw a movie called Class in Germany that was made in '84, which I really liked that one. Class was awesome. But I didn't really care about this one. I mean, it tried to be an Animal House, but it wasn't raunchy enough. Reminded me of Up the Academy, but I liked Up the Academy much more. And it doesn't seem like they pushed the envelope enough in that one either. But Up the Academy was a much better movie than this one. And Animal House, it's trying to be like Animal House, it just didn't make the grade. But I mean, it's watchable enough for me, and because of Dice and Gordon Jump, it gets a little more interesting, but it's kind of dumb. I give it a very mild 5 out of 10. But I want to thank Christopher Spose for being condescending to me. Because I like these 80s movies. Some are better than others. But From the Hip, in my opinion, is a far better movie. And no one remembers that one. And From the Hip with Judd Nelson is way better, in my opinion. And that was R-rated. And that did seem like an R-rated movie. Now, next is a movie. This film has not yet been rated, about the ratings board, the MPAA. It's been around since November 1st, 1968. I was born December 29th, 1968, so I was pretty much alive the whole time MPAA's been around. And it revolves around, how they knock some movies with the NC-17, which is the kiss of death. Now, it used to be the X rating was the kiss of death for these movies. And before that, even before all that stuff, they had the Hays Code, which was like the thing that caused movies to be clean for a long time, and then they start fighting back against that, eventually, and then end up forming the ratings board. And as far as and I thought it was a fascinating movie. They were trying to find out the secrets of the society, because they said all the members are are not named. I mean, they're kept. They try to keep the names secret from the public, and the director actually hired private investigators to find out about it, which was really interesting. Even though in a way I would have been annoyed if they tried to find info about me, but that's all right. Yeah, it's very entertaining. I mean, as far as the hypocrisy, there's always been hypocrisy in movies. I remember seeing a movie from Hammer called Dracula's Written from the Grave. There was blood all over the place. I remember seeing it with my buddy Scone, and at the end they showed the rating, rated G. How the heck was that rated G with blood all over the place? And there was other things like the movie, Larry Cohen's movie, It's Alive. The very first one, the Mutant Baby one, was PG rated, and it was really violent. And then a few years later, in 77, he did It Lives Again, which was R rated, and it was barely violent at all, except for a guy getting clawed down the face and some blood. That was it, but there was lots of blood and violence in the first It's Alive, and that was PG rated. And as far as PG rated, I mean, parents were complaining about, they used to get away with a lot in PG rated movies. I remember seeing Airplane 2. And there was a scene with the guy, Robert Hayes. He's not, all there. They showed him painting a flower, and he said, "Okay, you can go now." And there was a topless lady in there. And my dad was shaking his head. He took us to see that. I loved it, but I mean, he was shocked that they had that PG, because there's PG rated movies that have nudity in it a long time ago, and violence that should have been, but not strong enough to be R rated, and that eventually led up to the creation of the PG-13 rated rating. As far as NC-17, they used to have movies like Midnight Cowboy, Clockwork Orange, and stuff like that getting X ratings. Street Fighter with Sonny Chiba, Street Fighter got X rating, and that was the kiss of death. But back then, it was different. Because they had what they call porno chic, where people would go see Deep Throat. But that was pornography. But I mean, the X rating wasn't a big deal back then. And then I think they had Last Tango in Paris, which was rated X, which was a big hit back then. I think my dad wanted to see that with Mom and Gary and Linda. I think they were all laughing and stuff like that. Now, later on, when they did include the NC-17 rating, all these films that got a X rating were re-rated, and most of them were NC-17. They said that Last Tango in Paris still got the X rating though, believe it or not. And with the NC-17, they were talking about R-rated movies that there needed to be like a middle ground between R-rated and X-rated. Back in like the I remember Cisco and Ebert were pushing for A rating, meaning adults only, and they were really pushing for that. And they said we finally had a breakthrough. The MPAA has created NC-17. No one under the age of 17 is allowed to see the movie. And the very first one, I know there's controversy. Everyone thinks Showgirls was the very first NC-17 movie, and they're way off. It was Henry and June, but no one remembers that movie. But I mean, they're talking about like censorship and stuff like that. I guess it's just weird because I know parents were complaining about TV shows being too racy, and they made them have a TV rating system too for TV shows, and then that kind of backfired because they had TVMA, and eventually it found out TV shows can push the envelope far more than they could before and get TVMA like The Shield and stuff like that, and South Park. I think South Park was the very first show that I ever saw that had a TVMA rating on it, and that was. They said like the first two seasons were pretty mild compared. That was the one with the alien probe with Cartman. That was the very first South Park I've seen. But I mean, I give this film not yet rated 10 out of 10. It's a fascinating film. I really enjoyed it. And also, I wanted to say back in the day when they're talking about violence, they talk more about sex and stuff like that in these movies. That violence was mentioned. But I remember back in the day, they used to have in the 70s and 80s, they used to have movies come out with. Not rated, and they have like a big thing at the bottom, and this for movies like Dawn of the Dead, Zombie, Night of the Zombies, which is now known as Hell of the Living Dead, Dr. Butcher MD, Tenement, and stuff like that. It said like, although this movie has no sexual content in it, well, some of them did have somewhat. It said it contains scenes of violence that may be considered shocking. No one under 17 will be admitted to see this movie, and that's what they did. So I hope you like this video of my reviews of Making the Grade, and this film has not yet been rated. I hope you like this video, everybody. Until next time, please. This is for you, Howie Cat, and Christopher Sposa. I hope you like this video. Until next time, bye, please. Take care, my legion.